welcome back. This is A Level of Computer Science 9618 and welcome to WBAATZ YouTube channel. This is chapter 5 System Software. So let's discuss about system software. Inside systems, in this chapter we're going to understand about the operating system, the management tasks done by the operating system, the utility software which comes along with the operating system, and then we're going to understand about libraries, language translators, and then about little bit about Java, and then we're going to understand about the features of IDE, and that's it. This is chapter 5 system software. So let's begin. So what is operating system? Why do we need the operating system? Operating system, or I should call it as OS, provide both the environment. It provides the environment in which applications can be run, and a usable interface can be formed between humans and computer, making a GUI, graphical user interface, giving a GUI interface, giving a GUI interface between a human and a computer to make it easier for humans like us to interact with a computer. Alright, so making it easy for us to interact. So it disguises the complexity of a computer hardware. So this is the work of OS. So what are the key management tasks done by the OS? Let's find out. So there commonly there are more than 5, but I could just say we can just look into these 5 for now. Memory management, file management, security management, hardware management, and process management. Memory management is a management of a computer's main memory. So we are taking care of the main memory. So there it is divided into 3 parts. Memory optimization. Memory optimization determines how computer memory is allocated and deallocated when a number of applications are running simultaneously. Like for example, if you are running a hotel and you are having customers coming, and all of the rooms are booked. So now more customers are coming, but they are you just told them that no sir, actually all of our rooms are booked, you can just come next time, or maybe after coming after 5 hours, so that one room could be free for you, right? Like that, right? So we are allocating and deallocated when a number of the applications are running simultaneously. There are so many applications are running, right? So we need to make sure that we could just when one application is free, when one application is terminated or is done, the memory is free, then we can just give that memory to another application. We are optimizing it, right? So it must therefore to keep track of all allocated memory and free memory available for use by applications. Okay, free may keep track of all allocated memory and free memory available for use by application for other applications, right? So this is optimizing the memory, making it best as making use of the memory as best as possible, make it more efficient, much more faster, right? Like for example, if one application is being run and it is using all the memory, then it will, the computer, it will crash, right? So we need to prevent that. We need to have some free space for other applications to run it as well. Okay, memory organization determines how much memory is allocated to an application, and how the determines how much memory is allocated to an application. So it determining how much the application is taking the memory, and how the memory can be split up in the most appropriate or efficient manner. So yeah, this is the definition. I hope you understand how the memory can be split up in the most appropriate or efficient manner. This is memory organization. Memory protection is ensure that two competing applications cannot use the same memory locations at the same time, because if both the application are using the same memory, then there would be a security error, there would be so many errors, right? So we need to prevent that. We need to make sure that one memory is for one application only. So this is memory management. Okay, what is file management? Defining the file naming conventions. Like there are so many file types, right? Like PDF, PNG, JPG, JPEG, right? MP3, MP4. There are so many file types. So the file management will try to define the file naming convention, right? Performing specific tasks such as creating a file, opening, close, delete, rename, copy, move. Ensuring memory allocation for a file by reading it from the HTTSD and loading into memory. Okay, so this is file management. What is security management? Ensure the integrity confidentiality and availability of the data. Antivirus software, we can just use a cells antivirus software firewall data. We can do a data backup just in case if data would be lost or corrupted. We can use password and a user ID, for obviously, since we are talking about the integrity of the data, we don't want any intruder to hack into our computer and try to change the data, right? So we will use a password and a user ID. We will try to make sure that we have a secure account. We will try to make a backup, and if we are using an internet, then we will try to use the firewall in order to filter out those dangerous those dangerous traffic that could affect the computer in any negative way possible. We can use an antivirus software to save the data from from corruption. Okay, so that is security management. It is done by the OS itself. Hardware management, communicating with all the inputs and the output devices using device driver. Every device has a device driver, so you try to just make a communication. It is done by the OS itself. Ensuring each hardware resource has a priority so that it can be used and released as required. Okay, so this is hardware management. Process management. In what is process management? Okay, so what is the meaning of process? A process is a program which has been run on a computer. Okay, so it involves, so what is mean by process management? Involves the allocation of resources and permits the sharing and exchange of data, thus allowing all process to be fully synchronized. Okay, involve the allocation of resources and permit the sharing and exchange of data. Okay, allowing permit the sharing and exchange of data, thus allowing all process to be fully synchronized. Okay, so these are the management tasks done by the OS. These are more likely 5 tasks done by the OS itself. Okay, so moving on to utility software. What are utility software? They are very small software which are deployed along with the OS. So computer users are provided with a number of utility programs that are part of the operating system. So they are utility programs, right? Okay. So these are the utility softwares: hard disk formatter, virus checker, defragmentation software, disk content analyzer or disk repair software, file compression, backup software. So let's start with backup software to store disk content somewhere else in case of disk failure. This is a utility software which is deployed along with the OS. So we try to back up the data just in case if there is a disk failure, right? Hard disk formatter. What is hard disk formatter? A new hard disk need to be initialized, ready for formatting. A disk formatter will organize storage space. It will organize it by assigning it to data blocks. New hard disk need to be initialized ready for formatting. It will initialize it to make it in order to make it ready for formatting, right? A disk formatter will organize a storage space for assigning it to data blocks. If any bad sector errors are discovered, the sector will be flagged as bad and the file tracking record will be reorganized. Okay, formatting disk gives you a fresh, new and empty disk. Any existing file on the drive would be erased with this formatting. Okay, so this is hard disk formatter, right? It will try to identify any bad sector errors and it try to eliminate that. Okay, if we try to format the disk, it will give a fresh new empty disk. Okay, it will give a fresh new start, and it will try to organize storage space by assigning it to data blocks. And a new hard disk need to be initialized. It always need to be initialized, and in order to initialize it, we use the hard disk formatter. Initialize ready for formatting. A new hard disk needs to be initialized, ready for formatting. Okay. Virus checker. A virus checker that scan all files for viruses on a computer as a matter of routine. Okay. Defragmentation software. What is defragmentation? When files get split between blocks that becomes far away from each other, when it happens, when files get split between blocks that becomes far away from each other, the hard drive then takes longer. It takes longer to read that file because the read head has to visit multiple spots on the platters. So in order to prevent that, defragmentation put these blocks back in the sequential order. Okay, all the data are split into different places, right? We're just going to take all of them in and put it in one spot. It will make it easier. It increases the efficiency of the data retrieval and thereby improving the overall performance of the computer. Okay, disk content analysis and disk repair software to identify bats. Okay, disk content analysis and disk repair software. Let's see. Disk content analysis, analyzing the content of the disk, and disk repair software. Okay, to identify bad sectors so that they can be marked as unusable, verify file system integrity, and fix logical file system. So it identifies bad sector that so that they can be marked as unusable, verify file system integrity, and verify file system integrity. Okay, and fix logical file system errors. Used to check disk drive for empty space. It used to check disk drive for empty space and disk usage by reviewing files and and file folders. This can lead to optimal use of disk space by the removal of unwanted files and downloads. Okay, so it identify bad sectors, it verify file system integrity, it fix logical file system errors, it used to check disk drive for empty space and disk usage by reviewing files and file folders, right? It can lead to optimal use. This can lead to optimal use of disk space. Okay, we are having space because it could have empty space, and we can see the usage as well of the of files and folders, and so we can know that disk space by the removal of unwanted files and downloads. Okay, file compression. What is file compression? To compress the content of the disk, thus increasing capacity. All right, so yeah, these are the utility software provided with the operating system. Now we are going to library routines. So library routines are built-in function, you can call it, if you have already started in ALL computer science P2 programming site. If you are going to it in if you have come to Visual Basic or you are in pseudocode, you must have gone through built-in functions. These are functions which are already built in. Whenever we try to use Java or Python, whenever we try to code something, sometimes we get built-in functions, like if you want to sum two numbers, we will get the function sum. If you want to get the average of anything, we will get the average function. Like this is a built-in function. This is there's a built-in function for power, x, y, right? So these are all programming stuff. So this is what we are talking about, the library routines. Functions which are already built in, they're already tested, they're already there for us to use it as much as we can, as much as possible, in order to make it more efficient, and it helps us to save a lot of time, and it also helps us to it prevent us to make that function, even because it's already there for us to use it. So software under development is often constructed using existing code from programming libraries, built-in functions. Library routine is a set of programming instruction for a given task that is already available for use, right? That's what I'm talking about, already available for use. It is pre-tested. It is usually perform a task that is frequently required. These are feeders, these are, in simple time, it's a built-in function. You will discuss this more, you will go through this more in programming in P2 or in P4. All right, this is for P1, this is theory based, but when you come to P2, you will do coding, you will do pseudocode, so you will understand this very soon. Okay, dynamic link library DLL file. Okay, it's different, it's a shared library files. Just like in built-in in library routine, like built-in function, we use it in the code, but we use it inside the code, right? But in this DLL file, it is a shared library file. It is saved separately from the main function. Whenever we try to execute a code, we always execute inside a main function. You will learn this more soon when you go through programming and stuff. If you're using Visual Basic or Java or Python, you will always have a main function, and inside a main function you will write down some code, and when you click the run button, it will run only those code which are inside the main function, right? So but in DLL files, it is a shared library file. it is separated, it is saved separately from the main it is known as exe file. Code is only loaded into main memory. It is only loaded when required, right? When it has been called, when it is required at runtime. A single DLL file can be made available to several applications. Several application can use it at the same time. Okay, it can be made available to several applications. Since the library routines are not loaded into RAM until required, so memory is saved and software runs faster. So it has some benefits, but there are also some disadvantages. Like for example, if you have changed the DLL file, if you're updating and you have changed the DLL file and somehow it could give an error, right? Or for example, if the DLL file is missing, it could give an error as well. So there are some disadvantages, but the advantage is the memory, it saves some memory and the software runs much faster. Okay, so these are the library routines and the DLL files. Language translator. There are three types of language translator: compiler, interpreter, and assembler. Compiler is a language translator which compiles a whole code into one go. It doesn't stop. It just keep on going until it finds an error in one go. If for example, it just compiles the whole thing in one go, from a high level language into a machine code. It translates a source code program written in high level language into a machine code. Okay, so if there are some syntax errors present, then the programmer will make changes to the source code until the compiler finds no error. The programmer, like us, will make change to the source code until the compiler finds no error, and then it will compile again. Then the application will run. So executable file can be distributed to users without users having. Okay, so the disadvantage of, or no, this is the advantage. Okay, this is the advantage. The advantage is that whenever if you try to distribute any executable file without user having access to the source code, the source code kept private. This is the advantage. So I'm saying this is the advantage, that the source code kept private. Okay, it's encrypted, so no one can usually just see the source code of the executable file, right? But in interpreter there is a difference. Instead of compiling in one go, it tried to read each statement and checks it before running it. It read each statement and checks it before running it. Okay, it translates a high level language program into a machine code for a process to execute. Okay, but it halts when it encounters a syntax error. So it checks line by line, it waits for it. It's much slower than compiler, but still it's always used for debugging. It's definitely for those who want to debug, right? This helps for easier debugging. The interpreter and the source code have to be available. This is the disadvantage. The disadvantage is that the interpreter and the source code have to be available each time that an error-free program is run. The source code become public. That's a disadvantage. Okay. Other than that, it is very useful for debugging. And as for a compiler, the advantage is that the source code kept private. Okay. So that's a difference between two. The compiler compile the whole thing in one go, and the interpreter reads each statement line by line. Useful for debugging. What is assembler? Assembler translate a low level statement into a machine code for the processor to execute. So it's a low level language. It's much lower than assembler. If there's known as assembly language, if we try to the difference between high level language and assembly languages: in high level language it is very user friendly, right? We have so many keywords like if, then, else, for loop, while loop. You will learn more in P2, don't worry. But in assembler it's much more complicated. It's low level, it's not really human friendly. But if we try to execute a file which is written in assembly language, it will run faster as compared to a high level language, because it is much closer to the machine code. There's no the gap between high level language and machine learning is, this is high level language, this is machine learning, this is the gap. But between it comes low level language. This is the gap between low level and machine learning. So it will the software written in assembly language will run faster as compared to software written in Python, Java, they're all high level languages, Okay. So assembly language, low level step into machine code for the process to execute. Assemble language can be used without the assembler. Okay, it can be used without the assembler. Okay, so yeah, it's just a statement. uh, or else the most important thing is that low level statement, it could translate low level statement into machine code for the process to execute, to execute. You will learn more about it in chapter 4. Don't worry about this. For first time assembler, two time as assembler, more of this, we will discuss this more in detail in chapter 4. Okay, so moving on. Okay, now since we have discussed about compiler and interpreter, there is one language which use both compiler and interpreter partially, and that is Java. Java uses both. It is used for debugging, and it is Java uses both. Having a Java virtual machine where a Java program is first of all compiled to create what is called having a Java virtual machine where Java program is first of all compiled to create what is called Java bytecode. When a program is run, the code is interpreted by the Java virtual machine. There are some language which use compiler, there is some language which use interpreter, and there's there's a particular language which use both in like Java. Okay, it's just which just the syllabus is giving us a conception, giving a concept that there are some languages that are using both of them, right? Partially, interpreter or compiler. So that's why I have put this. It's part of the syllabus though, right? So let's move on. Now we have come to features of IDE. What is IDE? IDE is integrated development environment where you try to write some programming codes like IDE, for example, Visual Studio for Visual Basic language, Visual Studio, Eclipse, IntelliJ, PyCharm, and there are so many IDEs, but these are very famous. You can just Google it. For Eclipse, we use for Java only. For IntelliJ, we also use it for Java. For Visual Studio Code, we use it for Visual Basic, but also we can use it for web development and so many things. So IDE is used for writing codes, right? Writing code, and having so many things. There are two ways to write programming code and run it. We can do it in a notepad, or we can just use it in a IDE. Okay, so what are the features of IDE as compared to a notepad? So it contains context sensitive prompt, for example, test completion for various name and reserve. Okay, what it's saying here is like, for example, let's say if I'm writing a Java program, right, and there is a line system dot out dot print ln. This is a code for print any value into the console. This is Java. Okay, so if I write it down this code, and I will just say hello world or hello, and wait, let me write it down more clearly. I'm just going to write it down like hello world, and if I run it, it will print hello world. Okay, this is a line. For example, if I am writing partially like system dot out, and if I put dot, and then you will get some suggestion that are you doing out, are you giving print ln or print or print f, something like that. So when doing a test completion for variable names and reserve words, and it provide dynamic syntax checking. It display hints. So the context center, it provide dynamic syntax checking. It checks the syntax, and then it gives some suggestion, it gives some hints, choice of keyword and available identifier that might be appropriate at the current insertion point of the program code. You will learn more about this when you're doing code, right? So this is context sensitive prompts. Dynamic syntax checking find possible syntax error as the program code is being typed into the source code editor, and alert the programmer at the time before the source code is interpreted. If you're having syntax error, it will give a right line. So this is dynamic syntax checking, right? Pretty print is it makes source code editor color code. Okay, pretty. What do you mean by pretty print? For example, if you are using an IDE, for example in Java, we have some special keywords like public, void, new, and all these keywords become pink when we try to write it down. So making it more colorful, making it more easier to read it, make it easier to read. And if we are using a conditional statement or using loops, and there would be a indentation. Indentation means, for example, if I'm using a conditional statement, if else, and then I'm putting another if inside, so it's starting from here to here. So now you can see here there's a gap between if it's here and if it's starting here, there's a gap. This is the indentation, okay, giving a proper gap. So most source code editor make color code the words in the program and lay out the program in a meaningful way in order to make it more easier to read, to debug, make it more beautiful to understand. Okay, expand and collapse code blocks. So it looks something like this. You're making functions, and for example, if you have a function that is written so many code, you want to just you want to close that, so you will just do like this. It is collapse. These are known as collapse, and if you just try to click on it, it will expand. The code will expand. Okay, so this is what it means by expand and collapse code blocks. For larger program, when making a huge a complete huge project, when you're working on a project and you have thousands of codes, so you want to make it more easier for you to debug, or make it more easier to understand, to make a design, to make an to make a design for the software, right, to demonstrate the software, so many things, right? So when having a larger program that has more than one code block, some code blocks can be collapsed to a single line in the editor, allowing the programmer to just see the code blocks that are currently being developed, like this. Okay, we can just collapse it, which means we can just close it. It will be safe. And if you try to double click it, and it will come out. Okay, it will expand. Okay, debugging. We all know what is debugging. Debug the code to make it more easier to find out errors, to find out logical errors or syntax error. Okay, allow the programmer to single step through the program a line at a time. Single stepping, which means reading each line at a time to see whether that reading each line at a time. Single step. Okay, so this is known as single stepping. Or to set a breakpoint to stop the execution of the program at a certain point in the source code. Okay, you just put a breakpoint that beyond this you cannot run it, which beyond this the compiler or interpreter will not read it. So yeah, there's a specific line that cannot be crossed. A report window will be shown to you, and you will get some it shows the content of the variables, the data types, and which is what storing the values. Okay, a report window then shows the content of the variables and expression at that point in the program. This allows the programmer to see if there are any logic errors in the program. Okay, so you will be given the window, you will see the variables name, the data type, and the data which is being stored. It will be shown to you. Okay, so this is debugging, and that's it. This is chapter 5. So this is the end of this chapter. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in chapter 4. You will learn more about the assembly language in